So at Ohio State, you worked with Bill von Hippel.
Hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about your dissertation research and your experience
Sure,
there?
yeah. I worked with Bill von Hippel. We had, various projects we worked on. Right around dissertation time, when I was trying to decide on my dissertation project, I started working with Marilyn Brewer. And she was actually the primary advisor on my dissertation, although Bill was on the committee. But I wanted to branch out a bit and be able to, have sort of different lines of research with different people, and so it made sense for me at that point. So that's where I did my solo status work with Marilyn, and So I just started looking at that experience experimentally, randomly assigning people to have in their group be the only woman or be the only. I was studying African American and white students, so be the only person of your race there, and examine that in the influence of that experience on people's outcomes. And I was specifically interested in performance outcomes, how people, they did an oral exam kind of test. So it's like how you express your knowledge in that situation. And so we were able to see the negative effect of being the only person of your race or gender compared to women who are randomly assigned to not have that experience. So it was a nice experience to be able to the fact that you can see this effect by randomly assigning people, means that it's not just if a black student does poorly, because it's something about them, it's something about their situation. Or you can look at the contribution of that.
Yeah, you're actually manipulating their context to see its influence. That's. I'm trying to, because I can't remember now the histories of the work on. So at the time that you're doing this work on solo status versus non-solo status, on performance and so on, what was this? This is again maybe an unfair question because it asks you to think back so far. But what was the state of the social psych research on things like stereotyping and stereotype threat? Like I can't quite remember myself.
Well, I think the people were studying this situation of solo status, but more about how it changes an observer's perception of other people. So, like the research was saying that when there's only one woman, let's say in a business context, people are more likely to engage in role encapsulation, like she might be expected to make the coffee. That kind of thing. And and that people would see her as very different from everyone else on different characteristics, and so there's sort of this contrast effects going on. So it's really about perceptions of people who stand out, and I wanted to more about experiences of people who are different in that way.
Right, and the impact on that person of being able to perform or being able to,
and then just around that time, like Claude Steele's paper on stereotype threat came out in '95, and my PhD was '97. So I could see how now this solo status work should connect to the stereotype threat research, right? Because this is a situation where one becomes aware of their social identities, right? Because they're standing out in terms of them, and when that happens, then stereotypes about that social identity also become activated, and that's why you may see these performance deficits and things like that for people in solo status situation. So so I was happy to be able to kind of make that connection, and that got me into more of the stereotype threat research too.